Hello and welcome to the Black Advancement. My name is Ajaman Jasante Goodman. To my left is Greg Goodman. To my right is Dwayne Robbins. Today we're going to be discussing Black Republicans. This is part of the Black Politics section. So I believe it's the third installment. Before I get into all that, let me tell you what the Black Advancement is. The Black Advancement is a nonprofit organization that believes in action through dialogue and dialogue leading to action. So we don't just want to talk about stuff, we also want to do it, and creating a united front within the black community to solve issues within the black community. So with all that being said, let's go ahead and get into it. Are black people slaves to the Democratic Party? That's something that you hear oftentimes, especially around voting season, or if you're around people who are politically inclined. They say that black people mostly vote for Democrats blindly, and they don't look at the issues for what they are, and that's why they march and step, go after Democratic candidates. But I really want to delve into that a little bit because of not only the history that kind of led up to this being a topic way back when, but also the current history and the things that are going on now in terms of Black Republicans and what, quite frankly, they're thinking. Because most black people, even if they're Democrats, they're not Republicans. So no better to delve into that than with Greg and Dwayne. So first question. Do you feel that blacks are brainwashed into voting Democrat? And I'll start with Dwayne.
I don't think as a people you can classify anything about us as just as a total people. But right. I do think there's portions of our community who lean more to the Democratic side based on just what they hear, in reference to what news cycle they watch or whatever like that. So I think that causes us to be more leaning in with the current climate of what Republicans seem to be representing right now. I definitely see why, if you're going to vote as an African American, you're going to probably more blindly vote Democratic than Republican. So, yeah. But brainwashing, I think that's a strong term. I think we're too strong with people to be considered brainwashed on anything. But I like I said, uninformed, yes. And not just us, a lot of people are uninformed about just processes when it comes to public processes, especially at your local level. Yeah. People don't understand those processes. So yeah. I think it's more has to do with that than the brainwashing, because if you are able to educate your people, and once they're educated, then about the process, then they'll engage in the process. Mm-hmm. But that's not just us. There's a lot of people like that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, white people like that. You got Asian. It's more of an economic thing than I think than more the race thing that they make it out to be. Mm-hmm. But that's what they push to keep divided. Those divided who have more of the same things going on, even though they don't necessarily all look the same, but they're dealing with the same type of issues. So like I said, I think if it ever gets turned from being focused on race more to the economics of what people deal with, and they're able to see those things and get past that, then I think you will get some traction.
I'd have to agree with Dwayne as far as the economic basis of this question is. It's not more of black people being brainwashed into it. It's economically, it makes more sense for blacks to vote Democratic. Like prime example, like you said right now, they're cutting a lot of programs and everything for the poor across the board. But the real question is, are white people brainwashed into voting Republican? Because there's a lot of poor whites that are voting Republican.
That's fair.
For which is basically voting against their interests. So it's not a question of whether we're brainwashed. It's a question of whether they've brainwashed themselves into voting for against their own personal interests. And
I agree with what you're saying as far as that goes, but there are numbers, and this might have just been Obama, but 90% of black people voted for Obama. That is a lot of people.
Yeah, because Obama.
I think you have to look at certain things, man. Obama was black.
Yeah,
he looked like you.
Yeah.
That has something to do with what people decisions. Look, we've had 43 white presidents.
44.
I'm sorry, 40,
counting
44 white presidents, because the majority of the population is white here, and they voted in people that look like them. So to come at like that is
We're coming at you guys like that.
well, to have that, it's just the double standard that gets continued throughout this country on certain aspects, where when the shoe's on one foot, you see it one way, and when it's on the other way, you see it another way.
Why? Obama could have actually been Republican. If he had spoken, said the same things, it wouldn't have mattered.
You think that?
In fact, if a Republican
That's
had
an
the same
interesting question.
platform as a Democrat up there, it wouldn't matter what his actual political affiliation was. It's not about their political affiliation, it's what they represent.
I don't disagree with that, but I think that. Go ahead.
I think here's proves it. If you look at the state of Maryland right now, the state of Maryland has a Republican governor.
They do.
And a Republican lieutenant governor.
They do.
But the Republican lieutenant governor is black.
Yep.
Do you know the only time the first time it happened, when this happened the last time, he won because he had a black lieutenant governor. I think that had a lot. It was Michael Steele. Michael Steele ran with
Steele.
And he was able to win and swung a lot of votes in Democratic PG County.
Honestly,
because
I like Michael Steele.
I like Michael Steele too, because when I spoke, I actually got to speak to the man, and I got to campaign with him, work with him, and I mean, I felt more. The person that the Democratic put up for lieutenant governor didn't look like me, and some of the things he was saying didn't make me feel comfortable.
Didn't represent you at all.
Right, and what Michael Steele was saying, and what I can't think of who the governor was, with Ehrlich.
Yeah,
who was with him,
and
his mindset, it was just like,
I mean, so is all politics identity politics? And when you look at it from that case,
some of it's identity politics, but most of it is
but
what that politician is saying.
But I think you have to look at Obama. That's just a whole different anomaly.
I agree.
The first black president getting
I agree with
elected.
that.
I mean, like, never happened before, right? So I think the anomaly of how that happened and everything like that. I mean, anytime you got the first time something happened, especially for us as African Americans in this community, it means so much to us because we've always tried to get acceptance from the society. I mean, that's how we've got brainwashed through this system, is we feel like we got to get acceptance from this society, quote unquote, the white society. But the problem is that they're never going to give us acceptance. And we have to come to the realization they're never going to give us acceptance and be comfortable in our own selves and take care of ourselves because nobody else is going to do it.
And actually, in all honesty, what we need to do is have our own political party that represents all of what we do, because there's pieces in the Democrat stuff that represents us, and there's also pieces in the Republican side that represents us.
Which for me, as I've grown, I mean, I was a Democrat because my parents were Democrats. I followed, and they were pretty savvy when political and following things and being involved in the community, so that led me to that. But as I grew and became into myself and became a businessman, some of the ideals that Republicans do business-wise appeal to me when I'm trying to establish a business and do business things. Those types of things appeal to me. But I have a outside of me that cares about my fellow man, that my parents brought me up. So that's the dichotomy that I'm left at. And so now, as a 45-year-old black man, I am an independent because I see things on the Republican side that I like, a lot that I don't. I see things on the Democrat side, a lot that I like, a lot that I don't. And I can't give allegiance to either one of them because the integrity levels at how they do things, I just can't deal with anymore. So I will be an independent, and I will look at each candidate from each side, and I will weigh that candidate on how I think he will do for me. And if I don't think he'll do what he's supposed to do for me, then either I have to run or I got to find somebody else to run.
See, the thing about this, even on the part you said about the Republicans and the business savvy part that they have, which is also a great, they're great at that as far as looking out for businessmen. Where they're lacking is there's no point in having a business if no one can pay for anything. You know what I'm saying? So they've got half of it right. It is great for businessmen. But if you can't afford anything at your business, then what's the point of doing hookups for businesses?
Right.
Well, I want to go ahead to the guy on the couch. Guy on the couch, we had a lot of good comments on this section. So what's the first one? What do you got?
All right, for question number 1, do you feel that blacks are brainwashed into voting Democrat? We're going to read the response from UMD 96D. And he or she had a lot to say, so bear with me.
Okay.
All right, so UMD 96D says, honestly, I feel that brainwashed might be too strong of a word to describe the tendency for most blacks to overwhelmingly vote Democratic, regardless of how abreast they are on where candidates stand on any certain issue. After thinking of the question for a few minutes, I really can't think of another word that really describes this tendency, though. I also think that it also has to do with blacks being expected to stay true to the party that has historically been the most sympathetic to minorities. The very idea of voting Republican if you're a middle class or below black American is unthinkable for most of us. Is it just a case of being closed-minded? Perhaps. I'm black and I voted for Bush the second time. Why? Because we were in a dangerous point in American history, and I didn't have full confidence that Kerry had the wherewithal to finish the military campaigns that were already committed to. Whenever I tell other black Americans my Bush voting choice, they tend to look at me with immediate disapproval, but can rarely tell me anything about John Kerry that you couldn't gather from a bumper sticker, or what in his campaign ultimately led them to vote for him. I'm not saying that I'm any better. Prior to that one vote, I had never dreamed of voting Republican and grew up helping my grandmother drive senior citizens to the polls to vote. I grew up with the voting model ingrained in my head: blacks vote for Democrats, as I'm sure many others did and still do. Through it all, I try to vote based on how I feel about the issues most important to me, with some issues such as social programs, immigration, and defense topping the list. Even with that being said, and the fact that I try to read as much as I can subjectively, I still tend to vote Democratic. So maybe being brainwashed, quote unquote, as a child made me remember the struggles that my family had to endure to make ends meet, and which party my grandmother thought most helped us make it through the day. Back to you.
Fantastic comment by UMD. What do you guys think about the comments from?
I mean, everybody's life is different. I mean, even when we try to group all blacks, dude, that's never the case. I mean, as you can tell from what this young man said, I mean, to me, I have no problem with what he said, because he gave you he backed it up with facts. He didn't think Kerry was a good man, a good military leader. And if that's what you feel, then why would you vote? Why would you vote for him if you don't think he can handle the job? So I can respect somebody that comes at me and breaks it down like that. But some of the other type of breakdowns you get, it's not like that. It's not, I mean, like you said, it's something off a bumper sticker. It's just something that they heard that the media stated. I mean, sometimes you have to do your own research into stuff. And if you're not willing to do your own research into stuff, then the older I get living in America, there's a veil of whatever we are. But man, I'm telling you, look behind it, it's scary behind there. What makes this face that we have of what America is, what gets us to have that face, whew, it's nasty when you peek behind that curtain, man, that veil sometimes.
The thing that most stuck out to me was, well, there's a couple things that stuck out, but the whole Bush-Kerry thing, to me, honestly, that's not a good enough reason to vote for Bush, because think about it, man. It's the U.S. military against some guys. That's pretty much what it was. The U.S. military against some guys. Okay, you don't need to be a great military president to handle some guys. That's pretty much what it was. Some guys. But
in a time of war, I think that's what's different about that. In a time of war, I mean, it's not a lot of hemming and hawing about making decisions. It's like decision is made. This is what we're going to do. Now, it may be wrong after the fact. You see it was wrong,
but you got to follow through.
But you got to follow through, and then you course correct. However you can, and sometimes you can't.
Well,
sometimes you lose the war.
That was the opportunity to course correct.
There you go.
That's what I'm saying. And plus, like I said, it was a different kind of war. It wasn't like we were at war with a country.
That's true.
We were literally at war with some guys.
Yeah, and
still are at war with some guys.
Because there's always going to be
some guys.
Yeah,
there's always going to be some guys.
So we're going to go into our plug section for the end of section 1. Plugging the website, which is www.blackadvancement.com. When you go there, you can go to the research tab. The research tab is basically to get you to be able to feel like you can have some fidelity on some of the issues. We have different articles and things posted not from either side. We try to be as down the middle as possible as far as the articles go, but it will give you some background on the things that we discuss, so that way you can feel like you can contribute. Topics also. This is also another section that's open to you guys. If you feel like there's topics that we haven't addressed yet, you can enter some in for yourself. But you should check out some of the topics that we have at our website at the topics tab. They're all really interesting. And lastly, events. We're going to be doing the live symposium here pretty soon. We're going to put that up on our events page as far as like where it's at, who's supposed to be there, what it's supposed to be about. You know, things like live symposiums, things like seminars that we do with other groups and things of that nature. So that's some of the stuff that we do around the community. And with that said, we'll be back for section 2. And we're back for the second section of Black Republicans, the roundtable, which is in the political black politics section. And the second question, and I'll start with Greg this time: are black people too dependent on the government and the services that they provide?
I'll say a majority of people that are getting help or government assistance are not sitting around just letting the government assist them. There's a small percentage that will sit around and do nothing and just continue to get that. Most people are trying their best to get back on their feet and get back out there. So I don't know whether there's as a whole, that we're too dependent. But I'll say there's a small majority, probably a good 5% possibly.
I mean, those guys get a lot of news play, but I hear what you're saying.
Yeah. There's a 5% possibly that may just be like, I'm just gonna get my check. But everyone else, just based on how this country is, everyone wants more. This country is all about living in abundance. So even if you are on government programs, most of the time people are looking forward and trying to get out of that system. They just don't know how to. So I don't think there's a whole dependency type thing going on, but there are a small majority that may just be like, I don't care. I'm gonna get this check and chill and do nothing.
I mean, if you work and pay taxes, man, I don't know how you dependent on what's supposed to be provided. I mean, if a service is offered by the government to help its people, and you're one of those people that fall like that to get the help, I mean,
What else are you supposed to do?
I'm at a loss for words for that. I mean, then if a country doesn't care about its people, are you a country? I mean, these are the things you have to ask yourself when you look at people saying, well, we shouldn't be helping out the poor. Oh my gosh! I mean, like when I hear things like that being said,
And they are said.
and they're said all the time. I mean, we see you saying, it makes me wonder how we claim to be such a Christian nation. You know, I mean, those are the things that in my mind would come up when I hear that type of terminology that I hate. Because all it is you're trying to stereotype one group into saying they're the one problem, when we know that's not the case. It is not a race thing. It is an economics thing. Because, I mean, if you break this thing down, it's always been more white people in America than black people. So it's probably going to be more white people on anything than black people, because it's more of you here. And then if that is not the case,
I'm willing to bet it'll be the same percentage of people who are actually trying to get out from under, and people that are just like, I'm just going to get my check.
Exactly. So I mean, I think you got to. I mean, all these things, but you really got to drill down into and look at those situations.
Like I said, those people are few and far between. Just like they talk about the so-called welfare queens.
That's the one. Yeah.
That was one person. One person out of the literally hundreds of thousands of people on this program. They put that one person doing something foul and made it seem like everyone is doing this foulness. And it's not. Like I said, there's a small percentage of trash in every realm. Whether they're rich, poor, or whatever. There's a small percentage of someone who just is absolutely horrible. And one of them happens to be our president.
I mean, the true thing is it's economics. It's not about race. And until that is truly understood and we can sit down and see that, I mean, that's truly when we'll be able to make the turn in this country for all people, you know? But until that happens, it's going to be tough.
Let's go ahead and go to the website. Guy on the Couch, again, we had a lot of good comments on this section. What do you got for us this time?
All right, question number 2. Are black people too dependent on the government and the services they provide? Black Droog says, this isn't a black issue to me. This is an American issue. A lot of Americans are too dependent on government services and abuse them. They're not intended to be permanent. They're intended to help those who need it, not reward those who don't want to work. Back to you.
Good comment. You guys have any comments off of what Black George has to say?
I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head. I mean, I think when you delve down into the facts, you find out it's not racial, it's economics.
It's all economic.
And I just ask people to do that. And once you do that and you see that, I think it'll break down these encumbrances that hold us apart, these little minor things that hold us apart will go away, and then we will rise as the true nation truly will be, can be.
Like I said, if you want a real depiction of what it looks like, go talk to those guys that used to work coal in West Virginia. Go talk to them. They are the picture. Yeah, they are the picture of what they put out there as far as the typical welfare recipient, I would say. However they are. Now, does that make those people in West Virginia bad people? Does that make them sucking from the government and all that? Absolutely not. It means they hit a wall, they came to a bad spot, and I'm sure most of those people really want to work.
Yeah.
And they really don't feel good about getting their check. They'd much rather earn their check than have the government just give it to them. But just because they're getting it doesn't mean you got to chastise them for it.
Right.
Just like the same dudes that are in the projects or wherever they may be, from rural America to inner city America, it's all generally the same. Most people really want to actually work and get out there and do some things. It's just the way that they box it and package it to make us look inferior in these ways. Because most of the people that have these complaints about these things don't even know anyone on welfare. They have no idea. They don't see these people. They aren't around these people. And if they are around them, they have no idea who they are. It could be
They're assuming off them.
yeah, it could be that some janitor that works with them who's always a nice guy. They're like, he's such a hard worker. He works hard and he does this thing, and he doesn't make enough money to cover all his bills. Although he's got all this hard work and he's always a nice person and everything else, they would say, oh, he's a good guy. He's working hard and doing all this other stuff. And then go out and talk bad about someone who's on welfare, not knowing the same person they're saying is a good guy who works hard is on welfare.
Using the EBT card.
Using the EBT, yeah. So they have no idea. They don't know these people.
They're
People
called,
that have these
I think the term
complaints.
is called the working poor.
Yes, the working poor.
Yeah.
Those people. And those are a lot of people that make up these people that need help on these government programs. So it's a lot of ignorance on the people complaining about it, not even knowing who they're complaining about, for one. And two, they do have a certain point when it comes to a very small percentage of people. A very small percentage of people. If everyone was like the welfare queen or whatever, then they got a point. But it's not that way. That's just the way it's projected by the news, media, and blogs and other people who have opinions that don't matter.
With all that being said, we'll go ahead and start plugging the website, which is www.blackadvancement.com. When you go there, another thing that I recommend is BA recommended websites. We basically we're going all in on black-owned businesses here. Basically try to promote them as much as we can. This year we're doing a campaign actually on Facebook to help push them out there to larger audiences wherever they reside. So that's one thing that we highly recommend. You go to our website and check that out. Other one is debates. You get to see people like me and Greg and Dwayne go at it on several different topics on our debates page, where we have a whole bunch of different debates for you up there. And the last thing we want to plug is a BA Book of the Month. BA Book of the Month is basically us continuously promoting black authors and authorship from a different side of literature. I believe the last one that I had up there, and I could be wrong, is Dick Gregory's Great Moments in Black History, which he crosses out and says American History. R.I.P. to Dick Gregory. The book is very interesting, and I think that it will be well worth a read if you get the opportunity. With all that said, we'll be back with question 3 after this. And we're back for our third section and third question under the Black Politics section for Black Republicans. And the final question that I'm going to be asking these two fine gentlemen around me is, how do you feel about the Tea Party Republicans and why? This is a free-for-all, so you guys can, whoever wants to go first.
All right. The problem with them, how I feel about them, actually, it doesn't even matter how I feel about them. I'm just going to go by what the truth is.
What is that question? That's what
The truth is this. You got to think about when the Tea Party came about.
Okay.
It came about when the first black president came into play.
Are you saying that this isn't a coincidence?
It's definitely not a coincidence. But what their problem is, what their main problem is, and what most of this country's problem is, or at least a good segment of this country is they are all afraid of change. Period. They're afraid of the change, the fact that there's more black and brown people, and pretty soon that'll be the majority. It's all a bunch of fear. They're scared to death of everything. And then they mask it behind patriotism and all this other hoopla, when the fact remains is that they're just scared to death of change in this country. Not even realizing and understanding how great this country is because of black and brown people. All the things that have been developed from in any realm, scientifically, entertainment-wise. What would this country be without black and brown people in it? It would be,
According to Trump, it would be Norway.
They're just a bunch of people who are afraid of everything. And they want to take everything back to when they felt nice and comfortable and not so afraid, when they could have their own neighborhoods. And they want to take it back to the 50s or something. Like, that was a great age for white America.
Yeah.
Not so much for anyone else.
Nope.
And that's what they want to take it back to. That's why I don't understand this whole, why they don't get, why we're upset about this, we want our country back rhetoric.
Is that true? Have you talked to people who don't
Yes.
get that?
All the time. Practically Monday through Friday.
It's interesting that
But for me, the fact that that person can't see the other side of that, that's what baffles me, though.
Yeah.
I'm truly either they or they don't want to see it. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I can answer that question for you. Why they don't? It's because they've never had to. They don't have to. See, that's the thing about being a minority in this country that people don't understand.
True, that's true.
The reason why they don't understand is because everything has been catered and geared towards them.
Mm-hmm.
We have to learn their ways in order to adjust to this place.
Which is one of the first things that they say about
Which
immigrants.
is what they want to
assimilate.
That's why they can't stand immigrants, because they want us to assemble. So we have assembled, but they never had to assemble to us. And that's what the problem is. The bigger the numbers get, the more they may have to assemble their thinking to our thinking. And they don't want anything to do with that because they're comfortable in their own little white worlds.
Oof.
And even with black people that are at the Tea Party, it's the same thing. They're scared too, for no good reason. And I broke this down. I was talking to one of TJ's friends, and for the life of me, I can't understand why these people would not want or have a problem with immigrants in this country, because the top layer and the bottom layer is all immigrants. The grunt work is all immigrants, and once you get high enough into the chain, when you get to doctors and scientists and everything else, they're all immigrants, all of them. So the top layer and the bottom layer, it's the sandwich that holds this whole thing together, and they want to get rid of that? It makes no sense.
What do you mean, these people?
Well, I mean, for me, at the time I was a Republican, and when they came about, I left the Republican Party. With the election of Barack Obama, I think it brought about a fear in them. And to me, the fear of that element that you talk about, why they fear so much is because they know history. They're scared we might do the same thing to them that they did to us.
But they gotta realize that we don't care enough to do that. We don't care. We just want to be left alone.
But
We don't care.
But how you just answered that other question, where we had to learn all that and stuff like that to be their way, and then they don't have to.
Yeah.
That's the reason why.
Fair enough.
So for me, you know what I'm saying, when that came about and it's obstructionist as you watch that Congress be,
Oh yeah.
it just gave me another light on how I look at America. That it ain't never gonna change, man. I don't know if it's ever gonna change. You know what I mean?
It won't.
I mean, you can say whatever you want to say, but will it truly ever change without some type of revolution happening? I don't think so. It won't change because any change that happens in this country is taken by force. It always happens by force. These guys who
Yes and no.
These guys who got in power got it by force. And I'm telling you, they're not gonna give it up without.
Oh
some
no, they'll
force
see this
being
whole
involved.
place burn before they give it up.
I mean, I think that's just what you have to have a good understanding of.
But I think what they're seeing and understanding here is this. If the playing field is always even, every time that I've seen anything, sports is a prime example where the playing field is 100% even.
It's as even as you can get.
It's as even as you can get.
Because sometimes you don't get to play because politics.
Yeah.
So,
But anything that people other than whites try, they generally take over. There's no room. Even look at the NBA now.
that's not fair.
But what I'm saying is, and I think that's another thing that they kind of fear and know, is that once we decide to apply, once other groups decide to apply themselves in certain areas to do certain things, then there's a small chance that they'll lose their grip on things.
Well, let me ask a question that's kind of
Which isn't even bad. Because as long as things are advancing, if they're really all about patriotism in the country, as long as things are advancing, they shouldn't care who is pushing America to the forefront.
So do you think that that's for everybody, or you think that's just for black folks? And I say that to say
No,
to
I'm saying
ask.
it's for everyone.
Well, I'm asking that because, like, for instance, you acknowledge that a lot of doctors and stuff are like Indians and people from other
Indians,
places,
Africans,
but
Chinese,
they can't really,
Japanese.
they haven't really stopped them from trying to do anything.
What
Do you think, like, what I mean is, like, they don't try to prohibit their progress in American society? Do you think that that's
Because
just a special thing towards black people, or
can't
do you?
prohibit genius? You can steal genius, but you can't prohibit it. Once you're on that kind of level and they need you, like, I'll say this, those guys are great. A lot of the people that are in those positions, like put in the hospital, they're great doctors. But you already know who's running the hospital. They're only going to let you go so far.
I see what you did there.
The thing that makes this place so amazing is the delicate balance that everyone can make something happen. It's just that they've made that road much harder for certain people. And that's why, real talk, if I go to the doctor and he don't have an accent, I'm switching doctors.
That is ridiculous.
I'm switching doctors. I know that dude actually did the work to get to where he is.
That's interesting.
He put in all the work. He got no breaks. He did all that work for real. It wasn't no hookups. Wasn't no we got your back. He had to do the work to get there. He knows what he's talking about. Doug over there, Doug may have had a hookup. Doug may be an alum. Doug's may be best friends with whoever the doctor, the head guy is in the hospital. I don't know Doug's background. I can't have 100% faith that Doug knows what he's talking about.
That's cold.
But I know Patel knows what he's talking about.
Patel?
I know Patel knows exactly what he's talking about. Because Patel had to work for real to get to where Patel is. Shout out to Dr. Patel.
Shout out Dr. Patel. Hey, guy on the couch, what you got on this topic on question 3?
All right, question number 3. How do you feel about the Tea Party Republicans and why? Your boy Bill says, I associate Republicans in general with racists and folks who want to take advantage of the middle class and poor. The Tea Party I associate with folks who are upset that a black man got elected president. Routinely, they are exposed as ill-informed and the fringe element. Back to you.
It's cold-blooded. Yeah, that's good. That's a good one from Bill. What's your response to what your boy Bill had to say?
I mean, I think I'm probably in line. I mean, I wasn't, like I said, I was a Republican at the time, and when that group came about, man, I beat feet out of that party, man. Because I mean, just some of the rhetoric they were saying, man. I was just like, I mean, like, I'm black. You do know I'm black. I'm a Republican. I'm black. At the time, I'm black and I'm a Republican. How are you saying that crap? I mean, what is going on here? I mean, it was just baffling to me, and it just came to a point where I was like, okay, I see what y'all are about now, and I don't disagree with him. I mean, it was, I did call a few of them racist. I ain't gonna lie to you, because how they couch and say certain things, they do it in a way where they use certain words
To trick the code.
I know
and
what you
it's a
mean.
code.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I know exactly what you mean.
And what kills me is they think you don't know what they talking about.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, I've had to go through your education system,
Assimilate. Yeah,
assimilate into your culture. You don't
Yeah.
think I understand you? You don't think I pick up on certain things? And so my thing is, it's like, but they still doing it. They was doing it anyway. Like, I don't know. Well, that's not what that means. Man, I ain't crazy. You know, I mean, so, but no, I'm in agreement with the gentleman who, or the commenter on that.
What do you
Yeah, I agree with them too. Because what I've seen with these, that group of people that have that same mindset, is they're racist without cause. It's hard to understand because I know guys that have that mindset that would consider me a friend.
Right. Right.
But if they just saw me, they wouldn't like me.
Right.
But since they know me, they're fine with me.
Right.
So
That's true.
it's that they're just coming from a place of ignorance. A person that they actually know they like.
Yeah.
They don't have a problem with.
Yeah.
It's just
The idea.
blacks, the idea of blacks they don't like it. It's a weird,
It is.
funny.
It's
I don't know what the word is to describe it, but like they put blacks in a box except for blacks that they know.
yeah.
Because they know them, that automatically makes them good guys, I guess. And even the ones that they don't necessarily get along with, that they work with, they aren't racist toward them. They just don't like that guy. You know what I'm saying? It's,
Right. It becomes a more individual.
yeah, it's an individual type thing. So it's weird. So I can't really call them. They are 100% racist. They definitely have a problem with race, though.
They're not racist, they're racial.
Yeah,
Ah.
fair enough. They're not
Okay.
racist, they're racial.
That's fair.
And any group of people that are quoting Alex Jones that aren't comedians
Hey.
are
man.
highly misinformed, and they're a part of that group. So, sorry. If you're going to Alex Jones for your news, you're out of your mind. I don't even know where he's getting his information from.
He is making that up. He is concocting.
You know, I have a theory about
crazy
that. I don't
things.
think he's making it up. I think he's actually talking to people that are making up stuff and telling it to him. And he
He
takes
doesn't
it as
believe that.
fact.
He's an entertainer, man. I don't want to get too
Fair
far
enough.
into it, but I know that in his divorce papers or whatever, he came down.
Yeah,
and
I
said
know.
he was an
Yeah.
entertainer.
If you're that kind of misinformed, then you should not. How?
He's allowed to
Now
be
that I
on the
think about it,
platform.
now that I think about it, how did they even get an actual party based on this kind of craziness, and we can't get our group together to get an actual black tea party or whatever? Like, how is that even possible?
They all rallied behind this because they all had the same sentiment.
Racism is the building block of this country.
Yeah.
Not very true. Fair enough.
And not only that, but you have to understand, like, the fear that they had when they saw Obama, not only because he was black, it's not only just that, because they also do have fear when it comes to
Of
terms
change.
of, not only change, but also in terms of, like, what they feel the government will and won't do, right? And if you see a black person in office, and you know the history, like Dwayne was saying beforehand, and you know what he stands for on his platform, it can be very scary for somebody who's out in the middle of America who doesn't know any black people, doesn't know anything about, doesn't know anything about not having to assimilate to a place where they're not the majority.
Well, I'm sorry,
It's
I don't
very
know, but okay, fair enough. But I don't see how they're scared of a guy who's talking about hope and change
I
and
understand.
fixing the economy.
And
giving-
fixing the economy.
Hope, change, fix the economy, and making sure you're covered with insurance. That scared them?
They thought they were told by the outlet, because you have to understand, they don't listen to other outlets.
Exactly. That's
They're
what,
not gonna-
that's
they're not gonna-
that's the point I'm going back
They're
to.
not going to watch
Alex Jones,
this.
Wild.
Like, they're not going to watch this.
But that's what I'm
They're not
saying.
gonna do any of that
Like,
stuff.
you can't be that misinformed.
But they don't think that they're misinformed. That's what you have to understand. They don't think that they're misinformed. They think that what they're hearing is what it is. These other people are trying to spin it to sound good on their side. We're on this side, and this is how we roll with this, and blah 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 blah. They're not looking at it that way. They're not taking an objective look at things. They're looking at stuff from their perspective, and they're listening. They're in these echo chambers where they get fed stuff that it reinforces.
There's a lot of parakeets.
It reinforces what they already believe. It's just a stronger version of it. And because they get to do that, and because someone's on TV saying it's right, then he's like, oh, well, I know I'm right. Now you have someone in Trump in there saying they're right. They're like, oh, I know for sure I'm right, right? All this stuff is happening. I mean, and anybody who's objective, of course, would look at it differently, but I digress from that point. We're going to go ahead and plug the website, which is www.blackadvancement.com. The last three things, probably the issues that we look forward to the most. Unfortunately, donations is in that. We are a nonprofit. However, can't do anything without money. This is America. So if you want to donate, you can go to our donations page and do it that way. We have an open log list as far as like what our balance is and what we spend our money on and things of that nature. So the crux of the organization, solutions. We work on solutions all the time. We try to come up with solutions that can combat problems within the black community that have plagued it for years and years. We realize that calling it a solution is kind of a highbrow way of thinking about our little ideas, but we feel like if enough people get involved, it could make a huge difference. One of the bigger solutions that we're going to be working on here currently is the Credit Commandments Volume 3. So it's going to be available both soft copy and hard copy if you're around our areas. So be on the lookout for that. And the last one is Black People You Should Know. This is where we basically find people who they didn't put in the history books that much. There are some that everyone knows, but there are others that people didn't really learn about that much that we throw out there and try to educate the masses on. Ivan Van Sertima is the one that we're focusing on, who is one of my personal, he's one of my favorite people. He's a person who influenced my senior thesis at the illustrious Hampton University. With all that said, we'll be back with my take. Everyone else is gonna sit and listen because, well, I'm the man. We'll be back. We back here for the last part, which is my take. Glory be for the Black Republicans roundtable under the Black Politics section. So, for the first question, do you feel that blacks are brainwashed into voting Democrat? Me personally, I feel like although both parties do not really check any of the boxes when it comes to helping the black community, I believe that the Democrats at least pay lip service to it, number one, and they actually have this. They try to push some things towards us, at least from a socialistic standpoint. I think honestly, moralistically, Republicans are probably more in line with black people moralistically, but they don't, for whatever reason, they don't really go after the black vote at all. And that, to me, if you're going to show that much disinterest and disrespect and not even trying to talk to us because you feel like you can win without us, then I think that's why a lot of people vote Democrat, honestly. I mean, that's really the bottom line of it. They don't put forth any things in their platforms to improve anything that has to do with black people or the black community whatsoever. So why would you go and vote for that as opposed to voting for someone who at least pays lip service to and you can actually hold accountable and say, hey, we did this for you, we did that for you, where's our stuff? And if they say nothing then you got to go find another route. As far as number two, are black people too dependent on the government and on the services they provide? I think that the government is there to provide services for their citizens. It's part of the reason. There's two things that are valuable about a government. They should be able to provide for their citizens and protect their citizens. Otherwise, you're not really a government. If people have a problem with the government providing these services and systems, they should have a problem with the service and system part from the government. They shouldn't have a problem with the people. The people themselves are trying to do what they can, like anyone else is, to survive. The problem is more so the programs that are put in place and the regulations that are put over top of them. That needs to be redone. Not so much the people's attitude or people taking advantage of it or something to that effect. When someone has to say, I'm not going to take this raise because it's going to be more detrimental to me financially, in order to take this raise because then I can't get the help that I need for the government to be able to do this, that, and the third, then something's obviously wrong there. I mean, I understand that probably didn't do that on purpose. It's a thing that can slip through the cracks. It seems very individualized, but I mean, like, those are real issues that need to be addressed. Finally, how do you feel about the Tea Party Republicans and why? I feel that they were a racist segment specifically because of when they sparked up. I feel like the debt is only an issue when you have Democrats in office. They're never an issue when you have Republicans in office. We just saw them pass an $800 billion whatever just a couple of hours ago, a couple of days ago. It's not about the budget until a Democrat gets in there, specifically someone like Obama, and they will continuously have an argument saying something like, oh, Obama exploded the debt $10 trillion. not acknowledging that, you know, everything collapsed 2 months before he got into office, and that he had to sit there and he had to pay all these people back, and he had to figure out ways to improve our economy and our nation, and basically got us back to the point where you have 45 who can be a braggart about the economy being back. I mean, he did all that stuff. Like Greg was saying, there's a very scary element of people who are scared of change, and not only that, but they were looking at Obama as if he was 45 for us, honestly. So that's how they felt about him, and that's where they came down on it. But anyway, that's my take on all this stuff. Thank you all for watching. You can like us on Facebook at The Black Advancement. You can check us out on Twitter at BA44. On IG, we're on IG now at BA_Inc_44. And as usual, www.blackadvancement.com. Shout out to everybody. Shout out to Hampton University. You know what it is. Everyone else, black people, peace and advance.